Well, hello everyone, this is French. Today, in a few minutes, you'll be able to have a better view of my surrounding. Given that we are in New England, the weather might change anytime. Today, I'm already losing the sun. I came out purposely to basically be in the sun while I'm walking around getting some fresh air and at the same time do some meditation, some slow movement, tai chi. But anyway, so you don't want to hear any of that. So I'm pretty sure you want to know what's happening. So I'm gonna excuse myself if you don't mind, give you an idea of what's like. We are in a beautiful nature in a Cushion Park in Massachusetts, and you are experiencing true beauty. This would make a very nice pastel painting view, watercolor, depending on the view you want to capture. And yeah, definitely look forward to do some of that before uh, we get cooked in inside and the weather changes where it's either too hot or it will be too cold. So, but you don't want to hear any of that. So let's get to the point of really the reason why I want to do this talk with you. Um, is an opportunity for us to connect in a different level. We've been going through this series of loneliness, and I've been actually learning a lot about the various ways someone can experience loneliness. There is a difference between loneliness and isolation or isolated. In the Bible, we read Jesus took many opportunity to be in a solitary place where he prays, where he connects with his Father, versus him being lonely. Rather, it's a purposeful moment of isolation, either early in the morning or while before embarking into a very difficult time that he has the vision and foresight to know the challenges was facing him. So he took moments in solitude to pray, to commune, to have complete communion with his Father. In the same way, someone may take time, just as it says in the book by Deepak Chopra, The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success. The first law is the law of least effort. Take time to do nothing, to not think, to basically be in touch, be present. Because if you cannot be present, if your mind is all over the place, you cannot be present. You cannot really be in a position to receive because we are living in a very busy, loud world where everything is wired to get us distracted in so many different ways. And so, time of solitude, pre selected time of solitude is necessary, as well as uh, understand the difference between selected solitude and loneliness. So, it's two different things. You may take time away uh, to be by yourself so you can reflect on your life. This is already half of the year. The rest of the year can just breeze through in a blank. So you want to be able to assess where you've been so far, to be able to determine, through the summer months, what goals, dreams, and ambitions, short-term versus long-term goals, being it books that you want to read, people that you want to engage with, and at the same time, all at the same time, you need time to disconnect, to be in a solitary place, to commune with nature, and at the same time, when you re-engage back to your connected surrounding, your connected uh, social network, so you will have the opportunity to give and also the opportunity to receive fully. So there's a big difference between social isolation and and um, loneliness. Now, physical isolation. is different. One may be physically isolated due to health issues, where you have health issues that you cannot uh, travel to certain things. Like, for instance, someone who is handicapped may not have the ability to to come here where I am because of the physical barrier necessary. So you would need someone to be with you, but there are certain aspects of the park that you can be in with help from another. So to basically have connectivity. Anyway, so my thoughts are all over the place in regards to this video, but there are many ways you can combat, you can overcome the challenge of loneliness. First of all, I mean, it is absolutely impossible to live in such a connected world. You get into social media, you have the opportunity to connect, however superficial it is, to connect. And you go to church, you go to work, there's plenty of people around you, but you can experience loneliness due to the fact that you may have a different political view with someone, or perhaps you may have different uh, cultural uh, upbringing with someone, and you may be surrounded by people but alone, not necessarily socially, physically isolated, physically detached, but you're surrounded by people but you're alone. So, in a sense that you could be alone in a church, at work, in a marriage, in a relationship, or out of a relationship. Since this is a topic that is so vast and I'm learning so much and about it, and I decided to make it a priority to understand the topic very well, because you'll be surprised how many people suffer from loneliness uh, that you probably wouldn't know. So, anyways, I'm talking to this friend, and I mentioned to her that I'm doing this. You know, I'm having this quest to know more about loneliness, and I'm trying to get as many people's uh, opinions about it. And she came from being super cheerful. This is a very cheerful individual, always in a good mood, always uh, very upbeat. But behind that, facade of being in a good mood and being upbeat all the time, she is secretly suffering from this topic of loneliness and being either in a relationship felt lonely, and as a social worker, she's also dealing with a lot of people uh, who is that basically that's the main topic, that's the main burden uh, to her professional life, that she's dealing with it to some degree, and she's surrounded by people, and she needs to be in a mental state of helping people dealing with the issue. So in one moment she was very upbeat, and in the next moment, and I get her in a very vulnerable state just by mentioning the topic that I did not anticipate would be a soft spot for her. So in a sense that I've ruined her day just by talking about the topic that I did not know that she had an issue with. And um, and then ever since, I've been wanting to regain access to talking about this subject. And all I have to do is take a look at her face to see whether or not, because the last time I did not anticipate her having this issue. And now, before I bring this topic or before I talk about it again, to make sure that is she in a state where she can talk about it. And at the same time, as a therapist, she is the therapist, and I need to help her in a non-professional setting talking about the subject so that she can help to alleviate the stigma of loneliness, and then make our connection, that brief moment of conversation, therapy for both of us. So I want to know about it just for intellectual stimulation, because I need stuff to talk about in general for my YouTube channel, and but for her it's a source of pain because that's her work and she has to deal with it, and she has to deal with the topic, and she also has to uh, deal with her client at the same time. Now, why am I telling you this? Loneliness is not necessarily an isolated topic, or for older people who are bereaved, who lost their partner, who are living alone. It's not for people in that condition. You'll be surprised how many young people at school who feel lonely. You'll be surprised of how many, even anywhere from adolescents to college students to single, recently married, and what do you call it? Imagine, of course, you're a parent, you can't have a couple of kids, and all of a sudden you find yourself being an empty nester, and the whole time you are together during the school age, from preschool to high school to now going to college to eventually the kids leave the house, and now you find yourself with someone you call your significant other, who is somewhat a stranger to you because the focus during the school age were the kids, and now the kids are out of the house, and you find yourself alone in a house with a stranger that you have to, in a sense, reacquaint yourself with. So I don't have to tell you that there are going to be some area of loneliness, especially if you have not taken time to develop, to nurture the relationship during the time you are uh, 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 raising the kids together. So you're young married. Here's another example. You're young married, and you're about to have your first child. The husband is working, the wife is working, and he took off to. He's also in school part time, studying, and they're about to have um, a young boy. Talking about opportunity for loneliness to creep in. All of a sudden, you know you have your priorities, your time together, and if you didn't take time to develop the relationship between husband and wife, and now you have a little one coming in who's going to require 100% attention of your time, in addition to school, work. You got to make money, you got to take care of the family, you got to take care of school at the same time. And I don't have to tell you, and you're young married, and if you do not have young people you're by your with you who share the same things, who share the same passion, like young marrieds, that you can share time together, mom's time, dad's time, together, it could be a very lonely state, even though that's just a phase of life that you have to go to, unless you, of course, you decide to get married and choose not to have kids, and you can pursue your career and not making kids a priority. But once kids get involved, then it's a matter of that stage of your life you have to go through, and you may or may not be part of a family network, church network, or surrounded by young people in the same life phases. So I mean, the issue can creep in so many different ways, and you can take measure if you're single, and you know and you don't have a partner, and now you spend pretty much a lot of time on your own. You can find a million ways to stay busy. At the end of the day, at night, you go to bed alone. If you're sick, you're on your own. You're taking care of yourself. You're on your own. So everything can go well. So as long as you maintain a good health, and you don't have any health problems, you don't have any uh, problem physically. But the moment you start having problems, you start getting old, all of a sudden life situation changes, especially if you didn't take time to build friendships around you. It's gonna be tough for you to be uh, single professional who lives alone, independent to a certain point, but you're only independent to the degree that you can take care of yourself. The moment you start having health issues, you start getting old, and you did not take time to also develop strong network of friends, then We're talking about loneliness 2.0. Anyways, being connected eh, eh, with other people is extremely important. Taking time alone to recharge, to be in a moment of solitude is extremely important. And being having a network of friends and continually put yourself in a position to make new friends so you can have constant new people to talk to, new things to do. There are tons of musical symphony. There are, I'm not talking about movies, that's boring because you're not going to learn much and you're being programmed by other things. I'm talking about musical symphonies, sports activities, uh, uh, being part of, uh, you know, tennis, miniature golf, uh, bowling. Bowling can have such a tribe around it because there's a lot of emotion around the sports of bowling. Tennis, running, jogging, walking, board games, anything and not to mention, you can take up painting, you can take up music, learning an instrument. If you have tried to learn an instrument or have uh, lessons from an instrument from before, you can pick it up again. It won't be for long before you find in social media people around you who are part of the same, who are having the same interest. And there's a good movie about that called They Came to Play. It's a series of professionals, mostly doctors, who've learned classical piano before. They are very well trained classically, and but they are also physicians, physicians, doctors, and who've rekindled a love for the classical music, and they have some kind of a tournament about it to basically balance medicine, the practice of medicine, and classical music in the world. Music plays in the profession of a doctor because music helps to balance you at some point. Uh, I believe in Boston there was a group of musicians, the cellists, who are also physicians. And there's a direct correlation between classical music, especially the cello, and the rigorousness of practicing medicine. They demand on your time, attention, and at the same time, the medicinal role that music plays to help you stay grounded and balanced. So, as I say, actually, just thinking about this topic has given me so much material to talk about, um, and I want my channel to not be just about crypto money because that can be very boring over time, and but about substance. You can be alone and not be lonely. So as much as you are well emotionally connected. Here's another example since I've got some time. So I'm part of a community, and one individual who actually contacted me because he felt like he was disconnected, but perhaps not necessarily be the best sport. Didn't probably comport himself well, so he got kicked out of the social group for our community. And so being left out alone to fend for himself, so he probably felt like he's being caught out, left alone with no sense of belonging. uh, it does not take long for an individual in physical emotional isolation to resort to hyper negativity, if not uh, to a dangerously psychological state of outwardly expressing negativity, if not to a point of doing social harm to the community, because he felt shut out, cut out from the social group, not being plugged into all the activities, to everything is going on, and there's money involved. Um, you know, there's the technology can take time to develop. Technology takes time. You can never, give a prescribed time for an outline or a timeline for doing X when you're dealing with technology, because something else, you're dealing with people, logistics, countries, licenses, and a lot of things come into play to create delay in delivery of the promised uh, and the like. So feeling left out, being socially, you could say, outcast to self-inflicted behavior. Uh, he felt, physically isolated because he cannot participate in a group, social group, and emotionally isolated because he's not connected. And so, what is the ultimate way of response? Negative responding, negative output uh, of doing, you could say, uh, bad publicity to draw attention to self, uh, and reaching out to people looking for opportunity that could potentially assist in doing, marketing, publicity, bad publicity, which would eventually is a self-reflection of his inner state. So I'm treading a fine line and not being specific and being vague for a reason, but I'm sure you understand where I'm going with that. Um, so in extreme isolation, socially isolated, a person will eventually result to or manifest uh, extreme narcissism to a point of negativity, extreme narcissism, and we can see that example in a movie played by Robin Williams in Snapshot. A person who is socially isolated, who developed imaginary, infuse himself imaginarily into another's family, eventually uh, extreme social isolation did not necessarily turn out well. And in any movie, it's the same. In another movie by Shawshank Redemption, in a sense, the gentleman who plays Andy Dufresne, for instance, um, he could have, he could suffer physical harm from his prison inmate, but the one punishment that he did not desire at all, the least desirable punishment, was uh, being isolated in a dungeon for misbehaving, or basically for standing up for himself. That was the least desirable because there was no social connection, no emotional connection. Even food was served to him uh, like an animal uh, underneath the door through a slab where he could not even interact with a person. And you can see the disfiguration of him in a very, very, very short time. And that same thing happened to him several times. That was the least desirable punishment. But the physical punishment he could take. The emotional punishment of being physically and socially isolated were the least desirable and therefore most painful. Because a person left to himself will eventually result to self-harm because uh, too much time in your own head without social connection could be very, very difficult for you and also for the people around you. Anyway, so I hope I have given you enough to think about. And if you happen to be a, let's say, a faith leader, um, if you happen to have a family, I hope the purpose of telling you all that is to is to hope that you find uh, for you to find value in this video. The very same people that you love spending time with sometimes, or you do spend time with sometimes, you cannot stand, or the very people sometimes, you have to overcome some difficult talk, crucial conversations, difficult conversations, dealing with difficult people. These are all books that you can read uh, to help you handle dealing with difficult people, and for the sake of the alternative. The alternative is physically detached from people who do not think the way you do, who do not believe in the same things, who do not subscribe to the same belief, and therefore isolating yourself, which in turn make you a danger to yourself and your surrounding. A well-connected person is a very well rounded individual. Not to mention, uh, you have the ability to impact your environment. You can shape your environment as well as your environment shaping you. By association, you can have direct or indirect impact in the life of a lot of people, and as well as benefit from positively or negatively from people through association, one way or the other. So either way, connectivity is better, even though at times it may be difficult. Uh, that's where you learn how to be human, dealing with challenges, dealing with misunderstanding, having difficult conversations. These are all opportunity for you to grow versus being an isolated person. You have no opportunity to grow. You spend day in and day out in your own head, and that cannot be good. In fact, there's not a single example where someone is isolated for too long, where someone can say, this is a good example, or show me someone who is isolated for too long, who is psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually healthy. Yeah, I know. It's necessary. Connect, connect, connect. Constantly meet new people. Constantly look for opportunity to connect. And a good argument sometimes is extremely helpful to spice things up. So to give you and your loved ones something to argue about, because the alternative is not good. It's been a pleasure. Until next time.